Hey everyone, it's Adrian and welcome to episode 18 of the Pageant Boss Podcast. Hope you guys are doing really well. I put up a post on my Instagram yesterday about getting you guys to give me some ideas for mindset issues that you might have in pageantry or entrepreneurship. And I say that because very often mindset issues, mindset's everything. It's so cliche that I don't think you'll hear that. But mindset underlies everything, whether it's your health, your wealth, or relationships. Anyway, I had two of my very good Canadian friends and queens, Maria Giolando and Matea Henderson. Oh my God, I still can't say her name. Matea Henderson. Chime in underneath that post. And Matea was talking about two very juicy topics. One was retirement, and one was whether you could actually advance your advocacy and platform more if you didn't do a pageant, which I think is a very interesting and particularly potentially thorny issue. And I may address that at a later time. Maria put in comparison. Now, Maria is a pageant coach over in Canada. She was our podcast guest just this week, and she was saying that she's coached, I think she's coached people in 30 or 40 of the states in America, which is just amazing. And I'll be looking to collaborate with her in the future. But she talked about comparison. Now, I saw that word and I go, oh my God. It's not like I don't have anything to say. It's like, where do I even begin? I have too much to say. So you got to understand, in a 20-minute podcast where I'm just talking to you generally and I can't really interact with you, there's no way that in 20 minutes I can just cure you from ever doing comparison again, right? And having this sort of comparison problem. If you are someone who really, and this will be my ad for today, if you really are someone who's battling with comparison issues or imposter syndrome, please book in for a session, okay? Go to thepageantboss.com and I will help you handle it. I'm not going to say I can cure it in one session, but I will get you 80% of the way there. I guarantee it. And then the other 20% is going to be you conditioning it day after day after day after day. Because if winning a pageant was about having the best walk, everyone would be winning pageants. Because, you can Google that stuff. Go on YouTube and Google whatever walk you want to do. I don't know what the names of the different walks are. I don't keep up to date with that stuff. But you can literally teach yourself how to do the best walk. But without the right mindset, it's going to be useless. So, comparison. And I have so this is going to be like a 20-minute stream of consciousness, so bear with me. First off, look, comparison is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I was thinking about this as I got out of the shower today. When you go to buy a car, what do? Right? We used to do this in person, but a lot of the time we'll do this on Google or something like that now. There's actually dedicated sites where you can compare cars. Now, no one says that's a bad thing, right? Or you compare insurance. Here in Australia, we have to get insurance for our cars. I don't know what it's like for you guys in the UK or the US or Canada, but here it's called compulsory third party, CTP. It's called a green slip. And, there's almost no difference between what different insurers offer. So there are sites where literally you can compare, you put in your car's information, the make, the model, etc., the year that it was manufactured, and you get a list of the different prices from the different insurers. So comparison in this case is a really good thing. No one goes, comparing, where to buy my groceries from and finding out where I can get the same thing for cheaper is a bad thing. Where us humans screw it up is we take the comparison and we make it personal. We make it personal, right? That's the issue. So when you go and compare a car, and let's say fuel economy is an important one to you, you see one car does 5 miles to the gallon, another car does 10 miles to the gallon. All right, I want the car that does 5 miles to the gallon. Here's what us humans do though, right? Let's take you, hypothetically, reading this, watching this or listening to this. God, I'm off with the fairies today. And there's a halo coming through because the sun's coming up. Oh my God. Right. Now, body issue is a huge one. So let's say you hypothetically sitting at home, you go on Instagram and this glamazon, this photo of a glamazon, absolute like toned here, legs up to the shoulders. Then you look at that and you let's say you've been working out pretty hard and you just look at that and you go, right. Well, what's the point? God pretty cruel, gave this queen, that, and here am I slumming it up, working as hard as I can, and I got this. And I know that's probably not what I should be saying, but that's the thought process that goes on in your head. And look, I've been there as well. And some really, and I've said this before, like success doesn't cure imposter syndrome. Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Hiddleston was talking about body image issues because he originally auditioned for the part of Thor, if you didn't know that. And he was saying he went to the gym for 6 weeks, put on 20 pounds of muscle, and then he ended up being cast as a part of Loki. So even people as successful as that can sort of deal with these issues. I mean, he said, who was it? It was Paul Rudd, who played Ant-Man. He was sitting on the couch next to Chris Hemsworth, who, if you don't know, he just like, again, you look at him and go, oh, okay, that's God's gift to women sort of thing. And he was saying as Ant-Man, he had been working at the gym really, really hard, eating the right thing, really putting in the miles, putting in the hours. And then he said he turned up on set and saw Chris Hemsworth and he just goes, well, what's the point? Because literally, I do all this stuff, and then you just sat next to someone like Chris Hemsworth, and you just go, "Well, what's the point? You're that, and I'm Ant-Man." So, comparison is not. I don't think it's ever going to go away, and you have to understand you're not the only one struggling with it. I think almost everyone is, but the problem is to circle back to it, is where you make it personal. So, if you go, okay, that person has a more toned body or they're more in shape than me. And let's say if you stopped it there, and here's where it really comes to where you've got to do the work. It's the meaning you make up for that, right? So if you look at someone who's in better shape than you, and the meaning that you make up from that is that, okay, that means I need to adjust my workout plan, or I need to adjust my eating plan, or I need to get to sleep earlier. It could be any number of things, right? And that's all you take from that. Great. Okay. Or you might just look at that person and go, wow, that's amazing. Give kudos to it. And then you move on. So all of those, even though you've done a bit of a comparison, because comparison, as I said, we're wired biologically to do that, right? Because if you see someone else doing the same thing as you and they're getting a better result, it's just a human instinct to go, okay, well, why are they getting a better result? Or they're getting a worse result. You kind of want to know why, especially as a coach, if you want to help them. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's the meanings that can screw us up, the meanings that we make. And you remember back, I think, to the first or second episode I did, your brain is not wired to make you happy. It's wired for survival. And that's both the benefit and both the huge issue. Right? The comparison, the meanings you make up may not make you happy. It's wired about survival. But let's say now, you're sitting at home, you're not feeling so good about yourself. You've had a worldwide pandemic, you've lost your job, you're feeling a bit depressed, you've been eating Cheetos like it's going out of fashion, you're not feeling so good. Now you open up your Instagram, now you look at the same photo of this tanned, amazing goddess, PS, photoshopped maybe, right? But anyway, you look at that person, and now what meaning do you make up? Oh, I'm just a fat waste of space. Or, oh, I'll never look like that. What's the point? I might as well just keep eating. Or I bet she's anorexic or bulimic. Or this or that or this or that. Now you have an issue. Now we have an issue. Because you've taken that same stimulus and created a really disempowering meaning for yourself. And frankly, not only do we often make up disempowering meanings, we make up meanings where we can't do anything about it, right? So if you make up the meaning, you look at this toned goddess, right? Toned goddess, and I've got a particular girl in mind because when she photographs, you look at her and go, how can you even look like that? Are you even real? But you look at that and you go, oh, I bet she's anorexic or bulimic. That's the only way you could look like that, and plus I think it's photoshopped. Well, it could even be true. I don't know. I certainly hope not. But now what power do you have to actually improve yourself? Big fat zero, right? You've given, if anything, yourself an excuse to not even try. Or if you look at that same tone photo and you go, oh, that I could never look like that. I'm just big boned, or I'm just chubby, or I eat nothing and I keep putting on weight. Again, those are not great meanings for you to make up. And I put up this morning about self-esteem, right? Because if I was to tell you what's the cure to this, so okay, the meaning you make up is hugely important, right? I want you to make up an empowering meaning. And by the way, you go, God, okay, this will make sense to you right now, but I promise you'll forget it when it matters most. So what I would get you to do, and I was working with a UK queen, a very big UK queen. Everyone would know her if I dropped her name. And she was battling, again, success doesn't kill imposter syndrome. She was battling with an issue like this. And I said, what you have to do is when you catch that negative pattern, in this case, making a disempowering meaning, I need you to do something straight away. Not, you don't tally it up at the end of the day and do it. Straight away, do something straight away. So just acknowledge and catch it. You're doing a negative habit and to redirect it. And it's got to be like that at the beginning, because at the beginning it's going to be very artificial because your brain is so wired. If you make up disempowering meanings, you are wired to keep doing it. And me telling you this, you'll realize it, but you won't be able to stop it just by listening to me. So if you've ever heard of people getting, a rubber band on their wrist and they'd snap it every time they're having negative self-talk, the way that we came up with was she would do 10 burpees every time she caught it right then and there, no matter where she was, right? If she was in the middle of a shopping center, she'd have to do it then and there every time she caught that negative habit. So if you are someone who's prone to imposter syndrome or comparison, the reason you're doing it, there could be any number of reasons, and I get it, they are valid. But in a 20-minute podcast, I can't go into all the possible reasons, and you really don't need to. Here's the thing, we don't need the story. All you need to do to begin your way to being better at it, as in by probably doing it less, is you work out something that you're going to do that every time, it's called a pattern interrupt, every time that you find yourself doing comparison and making up a negative meaning for it. Remember, comparison by itself is not bad. But if you catch yourself making a disempowering or a negative meaning from it, and that means that it makes you feel bad about yourself, because that's not a good thing. You want to make an empowering meaning for yourself, but you catch yourself doing that disempowering thing, I need you to have some sort of rubber band, or you do 10 squats, or you just get up and make a silly, clucking sound. The weirder it is, the more embarrassing it is for you, the quicker you're going to condition your brain to stop doing this thing that's killing your dreams. It's really that simple, and then I guarantee you 99% of you are not going to do it. I'm giving you here something that will work to combat one of the biggest problems and issues that all of us have, and 99% of people aren't going to do it. And I'm not saying this to rouse on you. I'm saying, in fact, that's the way it should be. Because in life is not about being fair, right? You look at results. And you look at 80% of people, what do you think? What sort of results they're getting in any industry, right? It's probably average to poor. Then there's kind of maybe the 15, 16, 20% who are getting pretty good results. And because they're getting pretty good results, they get rewarded more. But if you look at any industry, there's always like one or two, sometimes not even 1%, but 1 or 2 people who are just that little bit better, and they get all the rewards, right? You look at the entertainment industry. Look at singers, for example. So how many out of work or unemployed singers or actresses are there, working at a cafe? A lot. Go to Los Angeles, a lot. Then, there's probably 10%, 15% that are making a solid working income. You won't know them. They're not household names, but, they appear in stuff. They're getting paid for it. Cool. But then you look at, an Ariana Grande, right? Or a Lady Gaga. People like that, household names. Now, how much do they get rewarded for their time? But out of it, here's my point. And they deserve it because they've made, they've gotten to that level and they entertain us. But out of the entire industry, what percent is the Ariana Grande or the Jessie J? Or if you're talking about acting, like the Ryan Reynolds, the Al Pacinos, like what percent is that? The Will Smiths? Is it 1%, half of 1%, a tenth of 1%, right? So I get it. What I'm telling you to do, first off, it's easy. You can do it. So if you're not doing it, don't BS yourself. You're just too lazy to do it, right? Number 2, I know it can be hard, but number 3, it's effective. And that whole thing of being hard, don't go and try and find an easier way of doing this. That's your problem. Go and do this. And I guarantee you, once you realize how many times, if you deal with comparison issues on a daily basis, I guarantee you that if all you did was do, let's say 10 burpees, as my client suggested, every time you catch yourself doing comparison and making up a disempowering meaning for it, if that's all you did, here's 2 things I will guarantee. Number 1, by the end of the week, you are going to be in amazing shape. Okay. And number 2, you are going to get 90% better at stopping the comparison. Just because you now catch it and you're conscious of it. It's not like what it was before and you just kind of slide into habit. You don't even think about it. Point positive thinking, because emotions and feelings happen before you think about it. That's the problem. They're feelings. So you have to catch it when it happens, just by, doing something that's a little bit interruptive or painful, like the burpees or the rubber band snap, and then you'll get better at catching yourself. And then eventually you won't need the burpees and things like that, maybe after a week, after you've caught yourself 100 times, but you'll just catch yourself going, oh my God, I'm doing it again. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. Okay, when would now be a really good time to stop destroying my own life? Maybe now, right? And I'm not saying this as I've got this and you don't. I'm saying this with some frustration in my voice, because as I'm saying it, I realize I could be doing this a lot more too, right? This, I'm not going to swear, but this crap works, right? So if you find yourself doing anything negative, whether it's imposter syndrome or comparison, or you're scrolling on your TikTok for 5 hours pretending that it's work, right? I'm doing social media. No, you've seen 5,000 TikToks is what you've done. Do something that interrupts that pattern. And then as you catch yourself doing that pattern more and more often, you'll get much better at identifying it. And then you just go, all you have to do is go, well, do I want to keep doing this pattern? Probably not. Okay, well, what's my better alternative? That's really important as well. So rather than looking at this, again, toned goddess and going, oh my God, life's unfair, God sucks. Well, that's not a great meaning. What's a better meaning that I could make from this? Well, first off, I'm really talking crap about myself. Maybe I should stop. Secondly, maybe I should acknowledge all the work that I've done, right? Into where I'm going. It's not about the end process, it's about the journey. And the other thing is, she probably was born with genes like that, and I've got the genes that I've got. And there's stuff that she's not good at that I bet I'm better at, right? And this is where the self-esteem comes into. And I say this because I don't think anyone has... If you have high self-esteem, you can look at someone's accomplishments and you can celebrate them and still acknowledge your own and celebrate your own. If you have weak or low self-esteem, your only option is to turn everyone, particularly on social media, turn everyone off. Because every time you see someone achieving anything, and they don't even have to say they've achieved anything, you just look at the photo and you think it's implied that they've achieved something, or you imply it in your head, again, coming back to the meaning. If you have low self-esteem, every time you see someone else's achievement, you're bashing yourself, right? You can't help it, because you go, oh, that person's done that, I couldn't do that. That person's done that, I couldn't do that. But who would be doing that sort of a thing on a regular basis? It's someone who doesn't have high self-esteem, right? So if I was to give you the cure, or one cure to it, I would say, longer term. So short term, you've got that rubber band snap. Longer term, you have to work on your self-esteem, which means you've got to go to work, put in the work, and acknowledge your achievements, or acknowledge the possibility that every human you meet is your superior in some way, but every human you meet, you also have something that you're better at than them. It's that core belief, right? If you go around believing everyone is better than you, you have no conversation, you have nothing to give to this person, to that person. Well, God, no wonder you have no self-esteem. And then comparison and imposter syndrome is an issue. But you may not have low self-esteem in every area. And I'm going to finish on this because I said 20 minutes. And again, if you have an issue with this, you need to book in for a session with me, because I'll have to delve into the individual detail with you. Plus, I'm really good at this stuff. There's my advertisement for today. Because this is what I've been trained to do, because this is the stuff that can open up and change your life. Forget pageants, right? Like, I'm not going to say screw pageants, but pageants are a reflection so much of you, right? And you think you're going to win the pageant without doing the hard work inside? Give me a break. right? On the other hand, you do the hard work, the tough work to look inside yourself and go, you know what? I'm really got low self-esteem because X, Y, Z, so I'm going to work on it and handle it. How is that not going to affect every area of your life, right? You bring out a new version of yourself, new year, new me. If you come up with higher self-esteem, higher confidence, you're going to crush your pageant. You're going to crush your career. You're going to crush your relationships. You'll crush your goals, crush your health, everything, right? But let me finish on this. You may not have, and I doubt you have low self-esteem in every area of your life. I will bet dollars to donuts that there's at least one area of your life where you believe that maybe, at least if you don't believe you're great at it, that you're pretty good at it, right? And it's probably an area of your life where you put a lot of work into it. So it could be your career, right? I'll give you an example. Coming up in school, I did very well, got very good grades. So I'm very good at numbers and very good at spelling. I mean, my whole primary school, we had spelling tests every week, I think it was. It's a long time ago, I can't remember. I literally only made one mistake in my whole 6 years of being at that school. And I still remember it to this day. It was a special challenge word. It was diarrhea. Now, I tell you, there's like how many adults these days could spell diarrhea. I still remember that to this day. Numbers, as I said in my interview with Jessica Ford the other day, I'm kind of a human calculator and I like keeping my brain fresh by doing numbers in my head. So, when it comes to spelling and maths, I don't know which way you say it, I have high self-esteem, which means if I see someone who's good at it, I go, yeah, they're good at it. So am I. I don't have the comparison issue. But if you take an area where I have lower self-esteem, and I've told this story before, my sports teacher told me that I threw like a girl. And P.S., he didn't mean that in a positive way, right? That's not going to be news to anyone. So and I realized it's like 10, 15 years later when I was working as a coach with someone, and a coach that I had, he was working for me. He threw one of these Nerf balls, the ones that spin in a tight screw, and then they make the whistling sound. I thought I could throw it reasonably far. He threw it, not only the length of the oval, but it went over the back fence and into the street. Now, I remember at that time looking at that going, gee, I'm a bit jealous of that. But now telling you the story, I can figure out why. It's because I don't have high self-esteem when it comes to, silly example, my throwing ability. And what's the clue? I can remember my teacher telling me that I threw like a girl. And you go, what's the point of this story? My point to this is, if all it takes for your self-esteem to take a catastrophic dive is one person, normally a person that you respect, saying one thing and it just zings straight through your armor and it's impacted you for the rest of your life. Literally, I can still remember to this day, and that was 30 years ago, give me a break, it's like, my sports teacher telling me this one thing. Like, why the hell, pardon my French, why the hell do I even remember this? And this is where, people say words can really hurt, or be kind always, really. And very often you see these same people saying that, and then they're saying horrible things to other people. All it takes to impact someone's life, whether it's catastrophically or miraculously, is one word or one phrase said at the right time, the right way, or the wrong time, the wrong way. So I guarantee you, if there's an area where you lack self-esteem, if you think about it, you weren't born with low self-esteem. Someone said something, or someone did something, or you lived something where the meaning you made up from that was that you weren't enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't thin enough. I couldn't throw enough. And then from that point on, you've been carrying that emotional wound with you. Now, I'm not a huge fan of digging into the past because I don't think we're talking about our problems all the time is going to help. But this could be really key. So I need you to go back and examine, well, what is, if I can think about it, and it might take a bit of time, what is the source of this low self-esteem in this area? Who told me I could never be skinny enough? Who told me I was too fat as a kid? Who told me I couldn't throw? Who told me I couldn't be sporty? Who told me it wasn't pretty to sweat? And then I want you to find that out, because then you just go, you know what? First off, did that person really mean that? Or was it just a throwaway word that they said at the time? Right? And secondly, how much longer am I willing to actually carry this crap around with me, this emotional baggage. Like my sports teacher, I met him today. Don't know if he's still alive. I don't bear him any ill will, right? So maybe it's just a question of, you know what, he said that at that time it really stuck home. But, you know, look what I've done with my life now. I became a tennis coach, right? I'm still not the best thrower in the world. But maybe it's time to put that emotional wound or emotional baggage down and just go, you know what? That was a long time ago, and it's time to leave it in the past and focus on something different, right? So look, I hope that helps. As I said, this was going to be an emotional deluge of 20 minutes. How long has it been? I don't even know. Someone tell me. Someone who's watching live, tell me. Rachel said that's such good advice. Definitely something I need to work on. Look, thank you, but I really go and work on it, okay? This is advice that I could take probably more than any of you. So again, I'm not saying this is someone who's perfect, do this. But I know it works because I've seen it work not only with my own clients, but other coaches and my mentors working with clients. Life is not complicated, right? You want to do well at a pageant? Life is about doing the simple things consistently. But getting up every day and doing them can be uncomfortable. So as I said, you find yourself making up that disempowering meaning when you go into comparison. The more outrageous you can make your pattern interrupt. So a rubber band is kind of okay, but if you had to, every time you notice yourself making up a negative meaning, cluck like a chicken, right? And you're in the middle of your office and you have to get up and start going around clucking like a chicken. You probably will have to do that 3 times before you'll never make up another disempowering meaning again, at least for that day, if not at least that week, right? Because you don't want to do, I'm assuming you don't want to cluck like a chicken, right? Maybe you do, I don't know. But find what works for you. I've told the dog food story many times. That's one of them as well, right? So self-esteem, big chance that it's a cure to comparison and imposter syndrome. But remember, there's nothing inherently wrong with comparison, so don't try to stop the comparison. The only thing that I would say is bad is the meanings, potentially bad, is the meanings you make up from it, right? So if you do the comparison and it helps you come up with a new plan and empower a meaning for yourself, keep doing it. But if you're one of those people who does comparison and then you make yourself feel like shit about it, that's what you need to stop. Recognize when you're doing it, because I guarantee you will need to program your brain to do it, because you'll just be doing it subconsciously, right? People who bash themselves on a regular basis don't even notice it. They just think, oh, but it's true, right? It is true that I'm a waste of space. And you're like, what? Why? That's so sad. Why? How did you get like this, right? But any questions, let me know. If this is an issue you struggle with, again, book in for a session with me. I will freely tell you should not book in for a session with me for walk practice, right? But with this stuff, I am probably the best coach that you're going to get, at least in the pageant space. And I know this because I've done so much work in this area. So if you have any mental, I don't want to say mental or emotional issues, because we all have it, right? But if you want to strengthen your mindset, or you know mindset's going to be an issue for you, your next pageant, imposter syndrome, comparison, whatever it is, or you just need to kick up the butt, book in, thepageantboss.com. And if you're listening to this and for some reason you haven't joined our Facebook group, I don't know what you're waiting for, right? Go to facebook.com/groups/the Pageant Boss, or you can just look up the Pageant Boss on Facebook. Thanks. I'm going to leave it there before I keep babbling on. This is a really big issue, but I hope I've given you some value here. So I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening or watching. And if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss in future episodes, let me know in the comments or send me a message. Have a great day. I'm off to play tennis now, if I can see. And I will speak to you again very, very soon. Bye.